Life's good.
Hey, it's Diane, Key, and LG bringing you a new episode of the Now What podcast. This is the first episode of 2021, and we are excited to be here, kicking off the year talking about the power of the black and brown dollar. Before we do, I want to ask you to do something for me. If you like what you hear from this show and you want to support what we do, stop what you're doing, take 2 minutes to head over to Now What Radio and check out all of our episodes, our radio playlist, and merch. Subscribe to the show on our website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can hear podcasts. Now let's get on to the show.
Yeah.
The inauguration of Biden and Harris will hopefully bring favorable political policies to our community. So let's not only flex our political power, but also our economic power. LG, what does economic power look like for our communities?
Yeah, while we've seen progress in the civil, social, and justice fronts, particularly in 2020 being a very pivotal year for the Black and Brown community, one of the big things that's out there is the income and racial gap. Is one of the areas that we still have a long way to go. The good thing is the last couple of years, the wealth gap has been an area that's been gaining more awareness and visibility. For example, the banking black movement that we've seen, the buy black movements that we've seen over the last couple of years here. But let's throw in some facts here, some numbers about the economic power of our community. According to a study published from the University of Georgia, the Black community had $1.3 trillion in buying power in 2018. Our Latino brethren had $1.5 trillion in the same year, representing the highest buying power of any minority group. If we combine that together, that's $2.8 trillion in buying power. And it sounds like a lot, don't it? But let's just compare that really quickly to the white buying power in 2018, which represented $11 trillion. So as you can see, this is why I said we have a lot of work to do there. I'd like to highlight a recent case where a community wielded their economic power to initiate some change.
New tonight, backlash against a local business after a clerk was caught on camera yelling that he hates the black community, now getting change in the community. And it's all playing out at the Exxon gas station on Flat Shoals Road in Gresham Park. The owner of the convenience store at the center of racial controversy last month is now selling his business.
And the deed to the property could end up in the hands of a man who led a boycott outside that store for months.
After 66 days of nonstop demonstrations outside the ExxonMobil on Flat Shoals Road, organizer Joe Jones is pleased that the owner is planning to sell.
We sent a clear message that we will no longer tolerate disrespect.
Protests started in mid-October after a store clerk was caught on camera saying this. The store's owner apologized, but Jones says protests continued because of alleged racism and abusive behavior customers claim to have experienced at the store over the years.
It is in fact a privilege to get black dollars.
This week, the owner, Raheem Sivji, signed an agreement motioning to sell the property with an option for Jones to buy.
Some have said that this is a good thing and an example that other communities should adopt. There are some critics, and they just basically say this is an example of cancel culture and basically a forceful redistribution of wealth. I'm curious where you stand, Key and Diane.
Yeah, so for the people that say that this is a forceful distribution of wealth, I like to remind them that it's a privilege. And I think this is actually mentioned in the clip, and I don't know if we're going to use this, but the gentleman actually mentioned it's a privilege to gain our dollars. What that means is, as a business owner, it's a privilege to have a client, because we live in a nation where we can take our business anywhere, right? So let me just say that I believe that this was a great example of what should happen. Yes, this is a part of cancel culture, LG, Diane, and I'm here for it. Like I mentioned to you before, because it is a privilege to get our black, our brown dollars, many groups just haven't viewed us on equal status as human beings, really. And this is where, you know, in America, for whatever reason, and of course, we've talked about all the different things that contribute to this, but and just to keep the conversation moving here, what I'd like to say is that this is where you have a store clerk where this man feeds his entire family solely based on black dollars and where that business is located. His business actually depends. His business depends on the well-being of the community and the people around him. When the town is hurting, when the people of a community are hurting, so do the businesses. Businesses are there to provide a mutual benefit of service, right? If you are doing 100% of your business in a community that you do not care about, you are not a business. You're actually a leech. These type of businesses, if you don't respect our communities, it's time for you to stop doing business in our community. And as a matter of fact, yeah, you can keep your store open because you know what? You have a right to do that. But as citizens, we have a right to not shop with leeches. We're not doing business with leeches in 2021.
Yes, I'm absolutely about it. What we're talking about here is a boycott, and boycotts go back through history of our people. Think about Cesar Chavez and the Great Boycott. That was an entire movement that gained labor rights for farm workers. And think about racial capitalism. That's what this is all about. Boycotting is a tool, it's a right that we have to not give our money, to not give our labor, to not give our services to companies who don't align, don't support and value our people. It's as simple as that, and I'm all about it.
In the Ferrari or Jaguar, switching 4 lanes with the top down, screaming out money ain't a thing.
Yeah. So, Key, Diane, Now What is officially a business in 2021. We definitely want to thank all of our early listeners. We appreciate that. And definitely, now as business leaders, we have a voice on where we as a company spend our money in 2021. And for example, Now What is embracing a buy black and brown approach to our business dealings. And Key, I know you've adopted the Bank Black movement. Can you share a little bit about what led you down this path?
Well, first of all, it's like you said, it's everything that's going on around us. It's the increased awareness. It's just understanding, how important uh, our capital is, how capital is being spent when you deposit your money in financial institutions. What then does that financial institution do? Does that financial institution go out and purchase more prison stocks? That's something you should research. Me personally, I bank with One United Bank. They are the largest African American owned bank in America here, and that's been an awesome experience. It's been a seamless experience with opening an account during COVID. This bank also has a mission to reinvest the money back into Black communities, specifically. Again, of course, I'm not, against any other community not being invested into. What I am saying is that America, for a long time, has overlooked our communities in the brown and Black neighborhoods, and this is why, sometimes properties in this area are kind of left in the dust. It's two things that this bank is doing that I think will definitely help close the gap. That's help increase financial literacy of their members, of their customers, but also, of course, if we know better, we definitely do better. But also, real estate. Real estate, of course, is a part of wealth holdings, and this lack of ownership is one of the things that's propagating the wealth gap of Black, brown Americans here. And so if we can increase our real estate holdings, we can close that gap. And this bank is focused on doing just that. Diane, what's been your experience?
So, for my personal investment strategy, I am working with a financial advisor. I have let him know specifically to divest, move any money out of and make sure none of my investments are going into companies like BlackRock. From a business perspective at Now What, when we're looking at bookkeepers, we all do business based off of referrals, right? So through my own personal tax accountant, I asked for some referrals for bookkeepers, and he gave me some referrals, and then I had to restate, I'd like to make sure that you send me referrals for Black and brown bookkeepers. And he said, well, what do you mean Black and brown? I said, here, anyone that's not white. He said, is Asian American okay? And I said, Asian American is fine. Basically, please send me referrals for bookkeepers for people who are not white. And he kind of took offense to that. I could see it kind of caught him off guard. So again, there's a lot of Black and brown people who have helped us to get where we are now, but it's all of our responsibility to bring others along with us.
Yeah, and just on the Now What company side, we are adopting a buy Black and brown approach. But let's be clear here. This approach does not mean we're only doing business with Black and brown companies. But it means such companies will have a first preference when we're looking for services and products for our business needs.
Yeah.
We always hear that we don't support our community enough, and that supporting Black and brown businesses is difficult. So Key and LG, let's talk about some ways that individually we can take action and better flex our economic power in 2021.
Yeah, I'll take the first part. I think it's not hard to support Black and brown businesses. You can do this very easily. All of us are using, especially now in COVID, Uber Eats. Well, if you've never looked, you'll notice Uber Eats has a way you can filter Black and brown restaurants or Black owned or Latin owned restaurants within the app. Very easy. It's just making a conscious awareness effort to do that.
Yeah. Like definitely using those filters when I do Uber Eats. Definitely I do that. But also one of the things that I'm pledging to do is I'm just pledging to purchase more, clothing items from Black designers, from Black clothing store owners that I know. Right now I'm wearing a hoodie from Three's Threads. That's a clothing company that one of my former basketball teammates has started. And it's an awesome company. I got another friend I used to play football with that started a clothing company that I plan on purchasing from him as well. So my thing is I'm looking to try to buy most of my clothes from Black independent designers and clothing store owners.
Now What is dedicated to topics and issues impacting the Black and brown community, to elevate and empower our people, our voices, and our culture. We hope today's episode inspired you to have a Now What moment. And you can hear music inspiration for today's episode on the Now What Radio Spotify playlist. Thanks for listening. And remember, if you want to support what we do, share this podcast with a friend, subscribe, and check back with us each week for a new episode.